today already, welcome everybody. Today is Tuesday, December 12th, and we are in Town Hall number, Pete, which one? You know it, something.
Number 78.
There you go. 78. Means there are a bunch of Town Halls already happened in the past. And what we do today is looking a little bit on what happened in Ambassador's program evolution so far, from inception in May 2022 till now. So going a little bit 2 years wrap up retrospective, showing a little bit the whole process, showing some key achievements, what worked really well, as well on showing some major struggles on what doesn't work at all really well. And ideally, this will take not that much time. And the second part of today's town hall would be dedicated to a little bit workshop where we have spent up a Miro bot and where we ask everybody 3 major questions. From your perspective, what worked well so far from your experience with the Ambassador's program? Second one is what didn't work well at all. And third one is what suggestions would you have for Ambassador's program for 2024? And said that, just let me finish rolling my thing here. I don't start before that. Any questions on schedule for today? If not, we simply move on it. And let me share my screen after rolling my thing. And there's it. There we go. And we go to, no, this is the wrong one. We go to this one. And voila. Need to get rid of this. So screen sharing thingy should be done. So today, as said, we go a little bit on Ambassador's program, on how it started very first, and we look back on May 2022, actually. There have been some, let's call it the inception. That's actually where the whole thing started to kick off. It's very similar to the time when deep funding started as well. It's very much in the same period. Where we saw first, May 4th was actually the official launch of the deep funding of the SingularityNet Ambassador program, where Pete posted a first blog on the SingularityNet post, which initially kicked off the whole thing, then directly follow up on May 10th, where we had the very first town hall. If you look back for these town halls, they are not on the SingularityNet Ambassadors YouTube, because this YouTube didn't exist back then, and it's hosted on the SingularityNet YouTube channel. Then directly with the first workgroup, actually, translators workgroup, who started to kick in and process. Actually, in this regard, first one was actually process, what you can say, the first official one was translators. And where we started to set up the DWORK server to manage tasks, contribution systems for the Ambassador's program, where Pete previously used Notion, and then we started to move everything over there. So as we can also say, it's was to highlight a little bit of kicking off the whole contribution system, which later evolved into something quite nice and beautiful, actually. So, but then, Pete, I actually skipped a bunch of slides. I need to go back. Look on this. It's all this I missed. Okay, there we go. First, a little bit maybe introducing the mission of the SingularityNet Ambassador's program. First, it's a very clear, very simple mission, actually. On this we go. It's first grow awareness on AI, HA, and the Singularity ecosystem. And second one, to provide structure and rewards for program contributors. Straightforward, very simple. We have some key drivers, actually, which we can define as first transparency, making sure that all contributions and activities within the Ambassador's program happen in a publicly accessible manner, that everybody can actually have a deep insight if they want to, and understanding what is going on. That we definitely are driven towards decentralization, Decentralization is a process. It's not a status, something really important to keep in mind, actually. Decentralization is not built in a week or a month. This is usually a year-long process because it has to emerge. And heavily driven towards involvement as well, which means in our regard, we see contributors within the Ambassadors program, not only as participants, but actually as key architects and designers of the whole thing as well. Then some design principles on the thing is actually that we go with the emerging design, means pretty much nothing of the Ambassadors program was pre-architectured or predefined. We are going the way to say processes, systems, tools, workflows have to emerge. And we will come later back to this because this principle is a pain in the ass if you actually really implement it and don't use it as a just as a marketing slogan or buzzword. It's fully community-led in this regard, but it's actually quite insane because in this regard, Peter Elfrink here, community lead at SingularityNet Foundation, also the responsible person for the Ambassadors program, actually don't decide on stuff in this regard. The whole thing is really driven by the Ambassadors program community themselves. So community-led in this regard is really written in action. And for everybody who don't know, I simply recommend to Google these words if you're not familiar with them, that we have since the beginning focused on pretty much grassroots and bottom-up ethos, which means we definitely avoid corporate top-down structures. We are not an enterprise, we are not a corporate. It's a decentralized, community-led ecosystem, and grassroots bottom-up is written in blood in this regard. So coming back to how it started, this we had already, so I jumped over this. And looking on the work groups, actually, as you know, the Ambassadors program itself has a bunch of guilds and work groups, which define the program itself. And it's hard to say that they have been built because somehow they grew a little bit out of the whole process. Everything started back in May 2021, where we had actually the first process guild kicking in, which defines just some first processes on how do we want to managing things within the Ambassadors program. Very close up to them came the translators workgroup in them, which started to translate relevant SingularityNet content into multiple languages. And we had the Treasury Guild some months later kicking in as well, which took care of setting up treasury systems to further support a contribution system actually in this regard. Last in 2022 was the Marketing Guild who kicked in also in November. And then we moved already in 2023. So you can see in 2022, we really took time to set things up. Interesting and important to remember as well. In the first year, rarely any ambassadors' budgets have been used. Most of the stuff was done fully voluntarily. And quite some budgets was put aside and now defines the reserves which we have. So that Ambassadors program actually uses its budget. It's rather a new thing actually. First, it was really fully volunteer. In January 2023, we first had the video workgroup emerging from the Marketing Guild. Then we had the Strategy Guild coming up in March 2023. And then in April, this was actually also where we assigned the first official round or second round, not sure exactly, on ambassadors. And a bunch of stuff happened there actually. We had the archival workgroup starting to emerge and going to work. We had the Education Guild coming up. We had the onboarding workgroup who started to build up the group. And we had the writers workgroup as well. Additional also in April, we had the AI sandbox. So April can be seen as some key moment so far within the Ambassadors program because literally half of all groups and guilds emerged in this one single month. You can see it took us already 1 year to only get to this point that actually the emergence of new groups and guilds, fully developed by communities members themselves, actually became some sort of streamlined process. Then we had in May 2023 the governance workgroup starting. Later from the AO sandbox, we had the incubation workgroup emerging as well. We had idea in September the Gamers Guild coming up, and latestly the Developers Guild in October 2023. So these are all the existing workgroups so far. There are some more initiatives, for example, like the DWORK PBL or Knowledge Base workgroups, which are rather initiatives from the Process Guild itself, which started the whole thing actually. So Tivo, don't be sad if I don't put the both on there. But yeah. One really important thing to mention when we look on all the guilds and workgroups, looking again on drivers and principles, it's a decentralized ecosystem. In this regard, each guild, each workgroup decides themselves what, how, and why they want to do things. Keep in mind, we go with emerging design. Means we couldn't have designed any of the stuff right away in May 2022. And we did right to not even trying to do it, because this is what we got out. What we got out was, from my perspective at least, I was there in May 2022 with some other people as well, goes far beyond what we could have imagined back then. So there are some people say, yeah, but more structure, more processes, more everything. Definitely agree, but keep in mind that we really take emergent design and emergent system insanely important. Most beautiful things will happen where our own imagination stops. Right? We really want to make sure no one is perfect. We all have our limits, but when we all come together to collaborate, we may achieve much more than an individual could say, oh, it should be like this and that. No, let's all do this. No, wrong direction to go. Then looking on all the stuff, on key achievements is right now we have 15 active workgroups, some more, some less, but all of them active. We have over 4,000 completed tasks on the treasury system from all the skills and workgroups. They are unchained, by the way. We have a fully transparent treasury system and a really neat dashboard. Everybody who didn't saw it, check it out. We'll put a link later there. We have a quite well-established innovative contribution system, which actually aligns quite nicely with our design principles, drivers, and the mission itself, which is, by the way, on and off-chain traceable. And we have a strongly engaged ambassadors community, because back in May 2022, we started with, Pete, how many people have been there? 5, 6, 7?
Yeah, something like that. 7.
To now something around 20, 30, whatnot, constantly active community members. And that's definitely a really nice thing to have. Another really remarkable thing is that Ambassador's program itself emerged into a really well-established entry point for newcomers. What we can observe, for example, is that very early contributors within the Ambassador's program, to name some, for example, Mikasa, Littlebutts, Kenichi, Sukren, Adolf, they also became quite relevant people in deep funding processes, such as, for example, the review circle, where you can see the half of the review circle is filled with ambassadors, OGs actually, who found their way into the SingularityNet ecosystem through the ambassadors program. So this is something definitely worth to highlight. And to also see there is definitely synergy and bridges between ambassadors program and deep funding already. Maybe not yet formulated, but it definitely is. Then, some main challenges. First, shit, you see, I messed up the animation. First, there's no clear role still to date of the ambassador's role itself, which is kind of natural because it's chaotic in this sense. There are quite some tensions within the ambassadors group. Ambassadors group, I refer to the people who actually have the ambassador's title. There's some real challenge about the budget allocations of the ambassadors program. While it was in the first year really mostly voluntarily, now a lot of time, resources goes into figuring out what to do with budgets. we have definitely a problem with yet a maturity of processes which we have in place. While we achieve to find some really nice emerging processes, for example, each guild, each work group have their own Discord channel to communicate with the community. They have their own workspace to track their tasks. They hold all weekly or bi-weekly open community calls. So we can see there are some well-established processes all over the board. But when we go into micromanagement or whatnot, we definitely can and have to improve on building up our processes. There's some challenges on measuring measurable outcomes, such as KPIs, key performance indicators, or OKRs, operational key results, also called in more business-oriented thingy stuff. And we have some problems with quality assurance as well, especially when it comes to content creation, where we can definitely look on a beautiful quantity of content, yet not fully able to assure the quality of all this content as well. Definitely something we want to work on as well. And key learnings. Key learnings. Key learnings, that's not up to anybody individually to define. In this regard, it's something we have to find out together. And this is actually where we go into the second part of the call, into the workshop thingy. But this was so far short recap, wrap-up of Ambassador's program so far from a high level. Surely not going into that. There are a lot of things which definitely deserve a whole highlight. But if we do so, we will sit here again in a week. So this aims to be just a very rough, high-level overview on where the program started, where it came from, and where we are today. Are there any questions already so far?
Well, if I may, let me start off with saying it makes me really proud to see, and thanks for the great summary and the overview. It's we come from far. Like, we started with literally nothing, so I don't know. Sometimes it feels like things are going super slow, to me at least, and I assume to others as well. But every now and then, Felix puts a reminder there, like, no, it's actually going super fast. Which every now and then also, does show, things are moving. Sometimes it can really feel like things are at a standstill or just not progressing. And there are some items which, drag on for months, literally. But just super proud of all of you and all that contributed over the time. So thanks for that. Yeah, that was hardly a question, but if anybody has some questions.
True. But if no questions, I have a bunch of questions, actually 3 questions to each and everyone, yeah? And there I go into the second part now, where we set up a quick Miro bot. And what we ideally do is bring together some key learnings, and these key learnings ideally emerge through all the individual perspectives from people here right now, and also people who are not here right now will be invited later as well. And there's 3 questions we'd love to ask. First question would be, from your perspective, what went well? Second question, from your perspective, what didn't went well? And the third one, what suggestions would you have on the Ambassadors program for 2024 and maybe even beyond? One thing I want to mention, what didn't went well, dissent is needed. And we should definitely encourage each other in saying, hey, there is critique, because if we build a system and we don't have critique, we should highly doubt the system or the participants in the system. Critique is needed. So don't be shy when it comes to went well. Usually people tend to more say what went well and then are a little bit shy on what didn't went well. But if you really want us to improve the thing, we rather listen to what doesn't work to know what we actually have to do better. On the things where you say it doesn't work, the best we can do is improve. Just not improve. What's the right term? Confirm what is already working well, right? So we know, oh, okay, this we can keep, but it won't tell us what we actually have to do better. And I think altogether, we know that we definitely can do better and we have to do better. So don't be shy about this. Then I would call people out actually just as they are on the screen. Pete, you're the first one on the screen. From your perspective, what went well and what went well first?
I would say building out the infrastructure. I feel we're setting ourselves up for greatness in that sense. Yeah, so yeah.
What else do you have in mind? You would like to highlight on what went well?
Well, basically everybody engaging. I mean, that's, yeah, that went well to me.
Well, everyone. Anything else you would love to add to this?
No, I think for now I'm good. It also feels like a bit weird, self-complimenting in a way, but clearly it's all the work you guys do, not what I do.
Oh, no. You're so important for all the stuff, what is happening here, dude. So then next one. Well, from your perspective, Pete, what didn't went well?
There I can be self-critic. That's nice. Well, as you pointed out as well, like the clarity on the ambassador role and basically the roles levels discussion that's been ongoing for way too long and isn't sorted yet. Well, I do feel the solution is relatively simple. Like, it seems pretty much everybody's on the same page there. Anyway, that's not for now, but well, and the amount of time spent on the I guess it's part of emerging design, but yeah, on the budgeting discussion, like for this Q4, we spent about 2.5, 3 months talking about the budget, and this is the first time we put like restrictions on work group budgets. So I do feel once we did it once, from there on, it's going to be easier. So I do suspect, by definition, this will go better, or yeah, spend less time on it. But that was a lot, and I think it's at some point it's just an energy suck, and that's not good. And that's specifically to the budget discussion. Yeah, exactly. Thanks. That would be the didn't went well, I think.
And what suggestions would you have for the ambassadors program for 2024 or even beyond?
Well, an easy one, since it already started, would be working with ecosystem spin-offs. But that process is already starting, so I don't think that can be how do you say, put back into the box anymore. I would say also from foundation side, more direct communications, like instead of being reactive to what's being put out by the foundation marketing team, yeah, be an integral part of it. I think that would be big.
That's interesting that you mentioned this, because I think that this problem was mentioned already very early in the ambassadors program already. And that is, it's really still an active one.
Yeah, very true.
Lance, what do you have on mind?
I mean, not in a suggestion, but in a dream big kind of scenario, just a meetup with all of you. That would be great. But that's
You
more
mean in person?
That's not like we're gonna arrange this next week kind of situation, but who knows?
With meetup, you mean in person?
Yes. Yep. That would be just, yeah, would be very cool, I think. completely ignoring the budgetary implications that would have, because that's the not so great part about it. But yeah.
Okay, we can meet with a tent somewhere in the mountains. Everybody brings some food, something to smoke, and we have a nice time around the bonfire. It doesn't cost a lot. Then, cool. Thanks for this already, Pete. Hey, is it okay if I add your name to the notes?
Yeah, of course.
Nice. Then next one on the screen would be Judith. From your perspective. Already a first question. Is it okay if I add your name?
Yeah, definitely.
Then, from your perspective, what went well?
Okay. So overall, I would say the growth in general is obviously one of the main things we can be proud of. I mean, what has been set up is absolutely remarkable. I think what went really, really well, probably the main thing I would point out is the consistency that everyone laid on the day, whether that's consistency with the town halls or the work group meetings or just like being active in general, or yeah, definitely that. I think another point is the key people in the program, or so to say the leaders, although I know this is decentralized and I know you dislike the name leaders, but I think the key people that we have in this program, from Peter, yourself, Tivo, the work that you do is absolutely incredible. I mean, I don't think we could ask for better people. So I think the people that hold it all together, we're really lucky with those, although it's just a handful of people, but that's something I would point out. Also, what I think is the creativity and initiative from everybody. There's just constantly new ideas. People are really proactive. It's constantly new stuff happening, and it feels like the people that are involved, they're really interested in the growth, and they're really thoughtful about what can be improved and what can be implemented. Then wait, I took some notes. What else have? Yeah, I think on the I guess it kind of refers to the first point, but the systems that have been set up, I'm absolutely fascinated with both the work and the treasury system. When I first joined, I thought that because I've never heard of anything like D-work before. When you explained that to me, Felix, you were the one that explained it to me. I thought it was fascinating that this can be an alternative way of organizing work. So I thought it was so revolutionary to have work set up in that way that everyone can kind of onboard themselves and they can contribute in the way that they want, and they can get paid for tasks, but there's no real roles. Like, well, there is roles, but you can contribute to as many roles as possible. That's just yeah, I think in terms of innovation, I really like this program. I think that was it for now on the what went well. Yes, we are innovative.
Then I hope you have as well tasty insights on what didn't went well from your perspective.
Yeah. Again, I think the onboarding in the beginning of the year was a big problem. It was understandably it was messy because there's also so many parts to it. I mean, there's so many different work groups, there's so many new people you're getting introduced to. Then there's all the spin-offs. Like, there's just so much to learn, and at least from my point of view, I had to piece together the information, and it was really, really difficult. just because also the ecosystem is so big. And I felt like I was learning, and as soon as I learned something, there was like a whole another can of worms opening. Like I was happy to understand the ambassadors program, and then it was all of a sudden I had to learn everything about deep funding, and I don't know, it was just never ending. But yeah, there was that. I think, what else? It felt to me at times that in this program things are being extremely micromanaged, especially with just a crazy amount of documentation, although that's also a plus that everything's documented. But I sometimes feel like the time we're spending on chatting and talking and creating documents is a bit on the excessive side. Although I guess that's taste, like that's just personal preference. For me personally, it's a little bit too micromanaged. I do believe there was some issues with overspending or wasting money, and yeah, it seems like for some tasks people are charging or like paying themselves a lot. I also don't agree that for some of the tasks, like writing meeting summaries, someone is charging 20 euros and the other one is charging 10. I would like it to be a bit more standardized for some very basic tasks, like meeting summaries. I don't think there should be different budgets. Unless someone has a reason for that, like someone wrote a 5-page meeting summary, then that maybe. Oh, and overall, I think it would be nice if we could have some more time all together to discuss things. I know we have the town halls, but there's a big part of it is taken up by announcements and meeting updates. I think sometimes we do need more time together to discuss.
Would this go into suggestions already?
I guess that would be a suggestion. Well, it's the observation that I don't think we had enough time together, so that it didn't go well. I wouldn't even say it didn't go well, it's just what happened. And then a suggestion would be to yeah, maybe have an extra meeting once a month or something, or to discuss, but also maybe get to know each other on a personal level a little bit more, which, I mean, we do spend a lot of time together, so I don't think it would hurt to also, you know, ask people what they're doing during their time off, or, you know, a bit more tell me about yourself kind of thing. I mean, we have the introductions channel, but I don't think we know each other so well. But
and when you say more time to discuss things, I assume mostly things which are, let's say, beyond a specific guild or war group, right? Which go more.
I think there's some things we agree or disagree on, like last week we had the discussion on the round table, and that was a discussion that took up a whole session, and we could have discussed even more. But I think, yeah, some just stuff like budget and that, I think it'd be nice to just have longer time to discuss, not just in the respective, like not just in a treasury guild, but also like just all come together. And on the suggestions, I would also add to communicate a little bit better and a little bit more that the ambassador program exists. I recently noticed that even the spin-offs didn't have the best idea of what we even do and how we can help them. And also overall, I think we don't advertise too much on social media what we actually yeah, I think that's it. I don't want to go on for too long. There's a lot of other people that need to speak.
And thanks, Dr. Judith. At George, I keep muting yourself because you have some hard background noises each time you unmute yourself. Sorry for this, mate. But thanks a lot for this already, Judith. Then next one on the screen would be Vani. Vani, what would you like to share from your perspective?
Oh, blimey. I was hoping I would be a bit later down the track. Yeah, okay. So what went well? I think I'd agree with Peter about yeah. Okay, I think somebody needs to switch their mic off.
Yeah.
Can someone
give-
please switch their mic off?
Yes, I just removed him. Sorry for this.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry, Vanessa.
infrastructure then. Yeah, infrastructure, I would agree with Peter. I mean, we've got a fully transparent treasury, we've got an archive, we've got DWork, we've got a contribution system. I think that is really solid that we've paid attention to our infrastructure first. Another thing that I think has gone well since I've been here anyway is the autonomy of the different work groups. Even when it is challenged, which it is sometimes, and somebody like tries to standardize and tries to struggle to get everybody to conform to to something, people usually overcome it and kind of speak up and go, no, autonomy is important. So I think that's really good. It's not just the fact that work groups are autonomous, it's the fact that there's a lot of people who believe they should stay that way. So I think that's really positive. I think I'm in two minds about that. I think the fact that it's been quite slow engagement and no big flood of people coming in and it's been gradual, I think that's probably a good thing. Although sometimes I do think, we could do with a few more people. But yeah, I think it's important that it's quite slow. And I think another thing that's gone well is documenting and tracking. I mean, I kind of would say that because that's something I'm involved with and interested in, but I'm seeing work groups kind of tracking their action items and following up on their decisions and having the meeting summaries available in the archive, though it would be good to increase searchability and discoverability of those. I think it's good that we see it as important to track our processes, our decisions, our action items. And I think, I don't know, I'm liking the fact that we're beginning to track how it feels as well with the archive summary tool. We're sort of asking people about how did this meeting feel? And I think just archivally, I think in 50 years, people are going to want to know how we thought it went and how we thought it felt. So something like this Miro actually is important. I think that's probably about all. Oh, that. I think we might have been crashed by a few people who want to make silly noises.
Hello, can someone remove Mikasa M? He's very loud. His microphone is very loud.
I'm wondering if we should remove you, actually, mate.
Yeah, gone.
Yeah, I think probably I could look at what didn't go so well now.
Oh, yes, go for it.
I think sometimes we've been very meeting heavy and it's been really demanding of people's times. I think we could look at async processes or look at maybe a wider range, more creative ways to have a meeting. But actually that's kind of already happening. I'm seeing that in different work groups and it's kind of developing organically. But I think we could be a little bit more experimental with the kind of meetings we have and a bit more creative maybe. But also I think I'm also seeing that there was a time when it felt like there was so many meetings and now there's fewer. So I'm not quite sure why that's happened or how, but I think it's probably people are deciding to prioritize. So maybe that's a good thing. I think somebody else mentioned that we could maybe have more interaction with the rest of SNet, more awareness raising of other aspects of the SNet ecosystem. I think that'd be a good thing. These are not really things that didn't go well. They're suggestions, aren't they? All right, one thing that hasn't always gone well is I feel like there's quite a lot of, I don't want to mischaracterize it, but quite a lot of sniping at each other's budgets. And I don't like the atmosphere it produces. I'm kind of like, if somebody says, well, okay, this is what we do and this is how we work and this is what it costs, unless it's absolutely stupid, I'm all for saying, well, you work the way you work. And, you know, I don't like the constant kind of watching your back to see if somebody's going to have a pop at you.
I have a great.
Okay.
And maybe just co-hosts, please don't admit new folks. Let
Yeah,
them
started
let them
removing
stick in the
already.
weight room.
Yep, that's all good.
Sorry, Vanessa.
It's quite entertaining. Yeah, what else? I sort of feel like it's something that is happening, but it hasn't always gone very well in the last year, is looking at how we deal with dissent. We haven't done bad, but there have been some sticky moments around the place where maybe somebody's tried to tell others what to do or tried to interfere with other work groups' processes or tried to, you know, there's been like a little bit of locking horns and trying to dominate each other or trying to make somebody feel not accepted if they have a fundamentally different outlook. And yeah, I think that's maybe a process that we had to go through. It hasn't gone that well at certain points in the last year, but I feel like we're kind of shaking down and we're getting there. So that's good, I guess. And then with suggestions, personally, I'd like to see it move more towards a focus on the ambassador program, not who has the ambassador role or doesn't. I think I'd like to see us avoid setting ourselves up with hierarchies if we can, and really avoid making it like some sort of corporate business. I think it does make things more difficult to onboard, and people say they find it, some people find it confusing, but I think we need to find ways to educate and explain why we work the way we do, and that's really important. I'd also like to see more governance education, because I think the more people get involved with governance, the more they have a voice in the ecosystem as a whole. And I think people feel a little bit, I don't know, maybe they're not immediately interested because they don't know how interesting it is and they don't know how important it is. So education could help there. I don't know. I think I'd like to see us be really proud of the fuzziness around what an ambassador is, and really proud of the decentralization and the different ways that different groups do things and the autonomy. I'd like to see us like really making that a feature, not a bug. And
There you need to help me. How do I wrap your last note into a sticky?
Yeah, just say be proud of the fuzziness around what an ambassador is, and stop stressing about it and focus on the work. And then maybe the other one is be proud of the decentralization that we have and see it as the feature, not a bug. Be proud of our autonomy. But the last one I want to say, I'm not 100% sure about exactly how it should pan out, but I think I'd like to see it if work group budgets were linked to work projections, i.e. a group saying, okay, in this quarter we want to do this and this is what it's going to cost. Then maybe, you know, there could be discussions about, well, as a community, do we want you to do that or whatever? But I don't really want it to go that way. I prefer it to be more about work groups identifying what they want to do, saying what it's going to cost, and linking it to a projection of their work that they can actually then evidence afterwards and say, yeah, we did that or we didn't do that. It cost more than we thought or it didn't, you know.
So, because right now we have really mostly the focus on direct work or retroactively,
Yeah.
actually with the budget request, right? So shift from retroactively towards proposal.
And that's about all I've got to say, I think.
Awesome. So, beautiful thing to say already. Vani, is it okay for you if I add your note, your name button?
Yeah, sure.
Please. Then next one on the screen is Guillermo. Guillermo, how about you, dude?
Hey there. So what can I add that haven't been said? Just to clarify, I'm not an ambassador, but I've been actively participating in the community efforts and helping when needed. So I'll try to do my best as an outsider, okay?
No. That's something actually important to mention. Me, as one of the first ambassadors, I don't give shit about who is ambassador and who is not ambassador. You are here, you contribute, you engage, you are the same. We're all humans, we're all on the same level.
I
Role or
agree.
not doesn't mean anything.
I agree, my friend. That's why I'm going to give you my inputs. But I certainly don't have inputs on treasury discussions, certain matters. Probably in the certain future, as I'm going to be helping with a situation guild. But participating on this these calls have give me a clear understanding of what went well and what is going well. I think there's a clear vision and alignment between the members. So I think there's clear objectives on the table, and that's shown in the robust and strong so a year ago there was nothing. So we have infrastructure, we have guilds, work groups. So there's a robust and strong commitment, I think, from the individuals engaging. And that is because, as Judith mentioned, and Vani and Peter, I agree, there's a clear leadership from you, from Peter, and yeah, your work is pretty good. It's very creative. Still, we need to keep doors open for new ways. So creativity is something that is contagious, and we need to keep that in mind. I think that when we as a community and maybe the ambassadors have been called for decision making, they have been loyal to the vision, and that's something that to highlight. So to the vision and mission with Singularity, I think it's always a learning experience to participate in this community calls. There's always something to learn. So and to highlight what I think, I don't know if it didn't went well, but I see sometimes, and I think it's something that we repeat. It was repeated by Judith and Vani. The use of time. I have been a corporate. I'm sorry, but it's true. I have worked for Heineken. I have worked for Coca-Cola. I have worked for all these suckers. And there's methodology, because they pay you fee to the way you use your time. And it's something that we decentralized optimists and maximalists need to include in the ways we operate. I have a short story. I have a boss, which I learned a lot in an advertising agency, and he said, if you're here after 5, because you're doing your work wrong. So the opposite of what we will believe, from merit and staying after hours and doing, extra hours. And if you create a methodology and you standardize methods, you get to the objective faster. That gives you time to go and have a beer. That's something that I think we are including in the review cycle. As we incorporate all this, as we move forward, we are adding all this knowledge that individuals bring to the table. One thing that went well, and this one I want to highlight it too, I missed an ambassador member on the supervisory council. I still don't get how we don't have TiVo, and this is what didn't went well. Go on red, Felix. I think we missed somebody on the table. We need somebody on the big table. There's no one that understands better the community. The participants on the different projects and proposals from SingularityNet as did funding. I think there's no one that knows better than an ambassador. Not only knows the key, also know the spin-offs of the language. I think that was a big misstep on that. I think that will be it. And to reinforce this idea, it's funny to receive an invitation for the new members of the Supervisory Council to fill a Google form, given the insights that they should already have to represent us of the Supervisory Council. So it's part of the process, and of course it has a token holder understanding, but as much as we get the community involved and we put one on the table, I think things will move faster. Last, and to bore you any more suggestions, I agree with you, Felix, Peter, Judith, that is involved in marketing. I say this because I pay my bills for almost 20 years working in advertising, and it's not that you need a unique message, but you need a brief. So in advertising, you work with a brief, and that will include the strategy, the insights, the subject you're trying to reach, so the target audience, and all of this is the result of a brief. So you have a creative brief that it's the result of a strategy brief, and have that in alignment with Singularity can help our efforts, and that will bring something that you mentioned too, quality standards to assurance the quality of our product. Video will be, so you do a great job, you're an artist. We need to bring that level of standard to all the outputs. Working with briefs helps, working with libraries helps, and all those things that you're right. And then another suggestion will be, I see in a quiet position as an audience on the theater. Rojo work on the ambassador. He has his business pretty tight. He is on the video work group, and his presentations about video are, you know, always on point. He brings data. He also always have a presentation. I don't say everybody needs to work the same, but if not, we need to train, or we need to bring a level of standard that we are always upscaling our business, our deliverables. What you're doing with a defunding academy, for example, you're looking for that. Also to bring a certain level of what we expect. If the ambassador needs, I think it's not enough short refresh summary of, I think, oh, I remember we did this and that. I think Rojo is a good example of what is a good, without killing creativity and not telling anyone how to do it, but just to give an example.
Yep, I agree on
And
this.
that we do.
Rojo is awesome. I definitely second that. Rojo,
Yeah.
thanks a lot for being here, man. You're awesome.
That will do it on my side, man.
Then thanks a lot, Guillermo, for the story. Is it okay for you if I add your name on the listeners? Okay. Then next on the screen would actually be Kent. Kent C.
Thank you. So I'm a newcomer to the community, so I'm just becoming familiar with what's going on, but I did have a couple of ideas. Things that have gone well. You appear to have a healthy, robust, and engaged community. So I noticed that there's a lot of participation, and the people that participate, especially the people who are participating the most, seem very engaged and are putting in obviously a lot of time. A second thing was the incentive system seems to be working well. So I think that, as Felix mentioned, there are a lot of completed tasks getting done, and I think the incentive system is helping with that. In terms of what could be improved, so I think that you need more participation. So instead of a meeting like this where there's 5 people, I'd like to see, I don't know how big of a meeting where it would become unworkable, but more participation. For the supervisory council, I was making a few suggestions for guidelines for the decentralization blueprint. And I think that I don't know how much participation that they're getting from other people contributing ideas. So I think that it might be, you might have just a few people dominating and contributing the most to the guidelines. And I think that we need more participation. For the budget, I think that it would be beneficial if it was publicized quicker after the end of the year, like the 2022 budget isn't out yet. For the live streams, I think by today's video, possibly that might be a thing that you might not want to do, because you're going to get banned by YouTube. And I think that's about it.
But as a newcomer, I'm actually specifically interested in, from your perspective, what do you think doesn't work well, actually, from first experiences?
Well, for the incentive system, so it seems to be working well, but I'm kind of wondering if it shouldn't be, if in the future, as there is more participation and more volunteers, that it might not be a good idea to scale that back. So I think that's, ironically, it's something that's working well and that might want to scale back a bit in the future. so that kind of sure that everyone is on board with the SingularityNet mission, not just for the purpose of gaining incentives. So and there also seem to be like a bit, like I can see a bit of a power struggle. So I don't want to talk too much about that, but I can just see a bit of that, where some people are trying to become more influential in the community. And that's all I have.
But it's beautiful. Thanks a lot for this, Kent. And this is specifically interesting as you speak from a perspective of a newcomer, right? So this is really interesting that the newcomer actually already thinks about how scalable is the system and already remarks the power struggle. This is really interesting. Thanks a lot for this, man.
Oh, thank you.
And welcome, by the way. Lovely having you here and hope to see you around, man. Very welcome to the program.
Okay, nice to meet you all.
Then next one on screen would be Curtis. Oh, Curtis. Hey, dude. A quick question. Kent, can I add your name on top of your
Sure,
notes?
please do.
Think so. Then Curtis. Hey, man, are you with us? Can't hear you, man. I see you
Can't hear me?
unmute. Yeah, there you go. Now you go.
Okay. All right. So we're starting off with what went well. I definitely think the flow of information has a lot of mass and momentum. So there's a lot of people structuring that information. And I think that's definitely through the town halls and Discord and people taking initiative to keep that flow going of information. There's a massive intent and passion in the community that kind of fuels momentum as well. The initial organization framework was started, and I think that went really well. Just building out all the documentation, conflict resolution, purpose, really getting that initial organization framework started was, I think, a great initiative. See what didn't go well.
A second. There you go. Yes.
Thank you. Someone mentioned about too much time was spent on certain things. And I think I have a bit of a different perspective, that it wasn't necessarily too much time, but that we don't have a design or a space where all the voices can be heard and yet a decision is still made. I think what's happening is when a member or a group of a small group have shared different perspectives, it stalls decision making. So there is a proper amount of time, in my opinion. We're spending the right amount of time. It's just we're not reaching decision in that certain amount of time. And so that can kind of feel like a stalemate. In some of the in some of the guilds, and it's not just from the leaders or point of contact people for each of the guilds, it's some of the members as well. I'm observing burnout, doing a whole lot of work and not really feeling either that it's going somewhere or just that it's overwhelming. So that could be due to lack of participation in the smaller environments. But how can we prevent that? How do we do burnout prevention? How do we retain the energy and the momentum in the guilds? Is it that we need more people? Then I feel like we should start taking initiative to outreach and grow that community size. If we think we have the right size, then how do we, I don't know, create structure, maybe not structures, but processes that will alleviate that frustration? How do we reduce the workload within the guilds to prevent burnout? And how do we make decisions in the crowd if it's not unanimous? So when one
Let's
person
go.
disagrees, sorry.
Would this go into suggestion already? To, like I
Uh,
said, define processes to reduce workload within groups and better decision making.
or just not necessarily better decision making, but being able to achieve decision making to begin with, really. That's kind of the starting point, right? And I know I agree with Vani talks about allowing each group or subcircle to have their own way about it. Totally good with that, as long as, right, the objective is they achieve decision making, in my opinion. And sorry, I didn't even see that as a suggestion, but you're right. So back on what didn't go well. On the scale back budget topic that was mentioned previously, I agree with the intent that as the community grows, you want to kind of control that so that it's not just contribution for the incentives, it's more intent based and value and purpose based. So I agree with that, but I would say maybe it's just my opinion, but a lot of the effort that goes into the guilds right now is heavily underpaid when you look at market, pay. I mean, I'm probably doing 8 hours a week, maybe getting $20 a week. So scaling back on it, more like leveraging it more appropriately, intent-based incentives or behavioral motivation type incentives is my thought on that. And then still in suggestions, communication channels and integrating the different communities of SNet. This has been said by a few others. So the spinoffs, the things that are happening in SingularityNet, the ambassadors group, the developers and organizations in Deep Fund, and getting them communicating, getting them interacting with each other. I feel like there's a lot of initiatives and efforts happening in all three communities that overlap. For instance, in Sandbox, we're working on knowledge graph tools for ambassadors, and there was also an RFP section for that in the Deep Fund as well. And we see that SingularityNet's working on that as well. So it's kind of like all these initiatives are happening, but independently. Using more education as onboarding mechanisms for both internal members and the audience community. And there's a lot of start initiative in that, but I think it can be expanded on. And then Vani mentioned about the budget and how it should be leveraged, and I definitely agree with that. In addition to that, it would be nice to see the budget being allocated almost like split with maintenance costs. So the guilds and the upkeep for the guilds and the operations of ambassadors, that be a predetermined budget that people sign off on a quarterly basis. But it'd be nice to also have a budget obtainable for project-based initiatives with clear scope of work, more so than the maintenance type stuff, similar to like an RFP. So if one of the guilds wanted to do something above and beyond just the typical meeting once a week type thing, how can they get access to some of the budget for that? And maybe have a clear hypothesis and how it connects with the purpose of that guild. That's it for me.
Some cool thoughts. Ambassadors RFP. Didn't thought about it yet. It's actually quite sexy. That's cool. Curtis, is it okay for you if I add your name to your stickers?
Yes.
Okay. By the way, we'll also share the Miro bot later so that everybody can add stuff there as well. Then, thanks a lot, Curtis, for sharing. Next one would be on the screen, then Rojo. Rojo, You have your own sticky. Somebody mentioned you are awesome. Guillermo. Roger, you're awesome.
Thanks a lot, Guillermo. Yeah, I appreciate it. Okay, what went well? Looking back at it, you know, it's like when you force yourself to look back at the beginning, it's a huge difference, right? I almost cannot recognize. I mean, at first it was almost just like I guess the general channel, people chatting. We had like the one meeting, maybe two meetings a week, not much going on. Fighting over Excel sheets, what to include, what not, and now we have millions of them. So that's pretty cool. I would say first thing that went well is we have like a strong infrastructure and processes. And I believe, yeah, we should probably like improve and build upon them. So that's kind of one. Yeah, I guess, yeah, there is a suggestion in there as well. I think we also have we have a pretty decent high level documentation, more about like kind of like where do we want to go, and a high level documentation meaning not like process specific, but more about how things can go and stuff like that. I think probably strategy, there is incubation that kind of played into it, and that's pretty good. One very important thing, we have good work ethics and productivity. I think we have a lot of productive people. If you look at all the work groups together, a lot of things going on. That could not happen in series. These people doing all of these things in parallel is quite awesome. I also started seeing more and more of like collaboration between work groups and guilds, which I really appreciate. I think that's pretty cool. And yeah, one of the most important things, a lot of new people, which is pretty cool. I almost see every week like one, two people saying like, oh, how can we get involved in this? How can we get involved in that? Which is really cool. I mean, it's not just video, it's not just I don't know, incubation, it's all over, which is really cool. I really like that. I think that's that. I guess there is much more, but I cannot mention everything. My mind is not that vast. I would say what didn't went well. There is somehow like a lack of focus on reaching out to spread the message about SNet and its spin-off, and not the program itself. What I mean by that is, I believe like focusing on the program as the product itself, or like as the kind of the content itself is not really. It's not how I see it. I see it more about actually pushing SingularityNet and the spin-off projects more than we kind of, you know, shine the light on ourselves. I mean, kind of the goal is not bringing people to us, but it's great to get more people to kind of do you know, tasks and govern this whole thing. But you know, I see the final goal as shining the light on SingularityNet and spreading the message. There is also there's kind of like limited effort, kind of aiming to use, review, develop product on SNet technology. And I kind of like the first time I joined the program, I was like, yeah, there's probably going to be a couple of people working on some, I don't know, some AI product, and we are all going to collaborate, and it's going to be calling some API or whatever from SNet. I didn't see much of that, which is unfortunate, I think. And I think we should do more of that, a little bit more, just a little bit. So yeah, there is that. One thing is like there is a lack of governance structure. Again, this from like the way how I see things is like often we're asking ourselves like who should vote for a document, who should do this, who should do that, and I think maybe working a little bit more on governance and kind of like especially for processes and documents that could affect all of the program. If it's you know, if it's like kind of specific to a certain group, it's fine. I mean, they can figure it out. And there is usually not many people to kind of collaborate between, so it's usually easier on a work group or a guild. But if it's like program wide, it's a little bit harder usually, especially to reach consensus. And one last thing, I think this is very, very important, is there is a lack of personal support for people involved in the program. I think we should have a space for people to be heard, and just basically to, if someone is confused, like at least there should be a place to kind of inform them and these kind of things. I don't know how feasible that is, but hopefully it will be. Okay, suggestions. Sorry for being long, by the way. I would say probably improving like onboarding for existing members. So what I mean by that is that we have a lot of people who are already involved in tasks and all, but these people, I don't feel they're properly onboarded, not to the program, but to decision making. They're not as involved in votes, in this kind of stuff. And I would love to see these people involved in the governance and not just in the task doing and this kind of stuff. So that, I think that would be cool. Improving, I guess, data-oriented decision making. So what I mean by that is it was already mentioned a couple of times, like having proposals. So people get budget based on proposals, right? And I would say not just getting budgets based on proposals, but let's link to that maybe things like monthly updates, milestones, deliverables. I think all of these are useful tools. I mean, they're already being used in deep funding and this kind of stuff. So maybe adopting some of that mentality of like checks and balances, that could be great. I mean, you bring a proposal, it gets accepted, and then you get a funding, and then there is some milestones, some reviews, monthly updates, whatever. That I think that would be really cool. And yeah, one last thing, and this is like something to think about. Like if you're kind of involved in a work group, if tomorrow all of the people in the work group disappear, will someone new be able to just bootstrap everything right away? Will that be possible? I think it's quite hard for most of the work groups. And I'm trying to make it better in the work group that I'm involved in. But I think like when I'm looking at the data, it's like, it's really hard. Like we didn't start this work group with the mentality of like, if anyone can anyone be replaced at the same moment? So maybe working on that could be something great.
They need to help me. How do I map this into a sticky?
It's an exit strategy, defining an exit strategy for guilds and work groups. Thank you for bringing that up, Rojo, because it's brought up often in the context of guilds and work groups. Having a good exit strategy would be nice. I agree. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Roger, is it okay for you if I add your name on your notes?
Yes, for sure.
Good. Thanks, man. How are we on time? Oh.
Terrible.
Horrible.
Yes, we're well into the incubation slot. I did check before we went to that. I did in chat check in with Guillermo, but at some point, I don't mind continuing, but it does cut into incubation slots more and more, of course, the longer we go.
So incubation starts in 2 minutes?
13 minutes ago.
30 minutes ago. Oh, fuck.
Yes. But let's have a quick check. How many more people do we have on the call? That
we have
maybe we can estimate how long that would take. Because in a way, this feels priceless to me. Like I will rewatch this recording multiple times over. I can promise you that. So I'm kind of inclined to also respect incubation slots. Yeah, I don't know. Let's discuss maybe.
Oh, just to add to the discussion. So 4 members of the incubation are here in this call. So I think it's great for the team and the ambassador's objective to keep going. I will follow with the team on the Discord channel. Don't worry for that.
Then, as we have so many incubation folks here, is it okay for you if we move on this one a little bit and deeply excuse to taking off your slot? Sorry for this. Okay, so if it's okay for you,
maybe Curtis and Ubio could speak up there a little. That would inform us.
Yeah, I don't know what the preceding discussion is, so I don't think I'm the right person to say that. I just came in for the incubation meeting and I heard everyone is here, so I just came in here too. And so let me hear the conversation, but I think it's exciting. Everyone here feels excited, so I want to know why everyone is happy.
We're actually going, the first part of Town Hall was a reflection on Ambassador's program from 2022 to now. And now we are going, share my screen again, through Mirobot, where we ask everybody 3 questions actually from your perspective. What went well, what didn't went well, and what suggestions do you have for Ambassador's program for next year and even beyond? And Curtis, is it okay for you as well to continue the thing here?
Did I come through? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now
Yes, can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And not sure who's the 4th one. The 4th one who is not Ubio, Curtis, or Guillermo. It's okay for you too. Ah, Pete.
Thank
Okay,
Onyeka.
Oh, fine.
nice.
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening. Welcome to I don't have a question. Today,
It's really hard understanding you.
Yeah, the audio is very muffled. I'm not sure if you're objecting or agreeing, to be honest.
I think he's agreeing. I heard when he said, yeah.
Okay, cool. Then let's move on with this. And next one on the list was Iain, actually. Iain, are you with us, brother?
Hey, yeah, I don't have too much to say. I'm conscious of time, but yeah, I would say, yeah, it's what's gone really well is just how people have come together, and it's been really great to see a community form organically and from the ground up, and yeah, long may it continue. Yeah.
Then I would say this was for the went well. From my perspective, what didn't went well?
I think for me, I would like to see, I guess, look at it from the side of being like an opportunity, like what things, like how can we grow and what things can we do to expand what the ambassadors are doing. Like, I know within like SingularityNet, we're really keen to figure out, you know, what else the ambassadors can be doing and how we can kind of expand that and give the ambassadors more of a role. And yeah, there's definitely scope there, and there's scope to strengthen connections with all of this ecosystem spin-offs. And yeah, I think there's lots of opportunities to do new stuff, try out new things, and yeah, I think it's a strength, I would say, when like if you try different things and figure out like, yeah, maybe certain things aren't working, like let's try new things and new ways. And that's the strength of being a kind of fluid and from the ground up kind of self-organizing thing. So yeah, I would say let's look at the opportunities and yeah, see it in that light. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
So then your last comment I added then in suggestions, and let's look on opportunities. This is strongly related on what you mentioned, right? Figure out how we can expand on Bosso's program and build better relations with SNet spin-offs.
Cool, thanks.
So is it okay if I add your name to your stickies?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Please. Thanks a lot for this, Iain.
Thanks.
Then next one for this was Erik. Erik S. Are you with us, man?
Yes, hello. Well, as I said, I've unfortunately been unable to participate that much, but I could say that every time I have been checking in, it's always been very informative, and that I quickly catch up to what is the general mood and themes that are going on. So perhaps not necessarily the reflections that everyone has, that it sometimes feels perhaps a bit stagnating, but from like almost like an outsider coming in, it's to be able to catch up quickly, but then perhaps then representing those who are dipping in and out.
So you're actually not really an outsider, Erik. I remember you from the very early, very first Ambassadors days. You have been around already since then, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a lurker, so but yeah, so overall progress is, from my perspective, has been great. Well, yeah, from the first year and up until this point, it has matured a lot, is my experience. A lot of new people, a lot of diverse backgrounds contributing, but I haven't really had the opportunity to be that much involved since, I guess, the different guilds and groups have been formed. So I don't know much about what has happened there, and the sort of the internal what do you say, the internal, well, the sense of progress within the working groups. I don't really have a pulse on that. I guess didn't went that well. It's been brought up, but the power struggles and has been well, yeah, noticeable. Thinking. Outreach, I guess someone mentioned as well. Outreach, and then someone said methodology. Exactly how things move from abstract thought until concrete action. And I guess one of the reasons I also haven't been that much involved on, other than sort of my my life outside of the ambassador program. It's been not always, it hasn't always felt like the best use of my time when it comes to keeping up with everything happening in the ecosystem at large. And that from being a non-technical person takes a lot of time. So the priorities of sort of understanding what is happening with SingularityNet and the ecosystem at large takes a lot of time. I guess that would cover a lot.
Thanks a lot for this already. What suggestions would you have for us for next year or even beyond?
Perhaps, and again, I feel a bit bad sort of throwing this out there because, as far as I know, this can already exist. But you know, I know it exists. The calendar, with access to an easily catching up with all of the different things that will happen from week to week or month to month. Again, back to being able to prioritize where contributions will be most valuable.
Oh, that's actually cool. So like an activity calendar actually, so not only on events, but to say that, oh, okay, hey, this activity is not related to the calls themselves, where people can understand, oh, okay, this is where I can engage. Is this something you're hinting to?
Yeah. And I guess, I don't know, was it Judith maybe who said it, but being able to perhaps connect and learn more about each other, not just related to work groups and guilds, to get a better sense of who we are and where we are, sort of in the sort of space at large. But again, I kind of feel like this comes from the wrong person because I'm have been sort of been in and out a lot.
No, I think here that there is no such as a wrong person right now, especially not in this call. So don't worry, deeply appreciate it. Pete, you have your hands.
Well, first of all, thanks a lot for sharing. Well, you started off with, well, I probably don't have too much to share. Thanks. There was a bit of unclarity actually. In chat, it got covered. Vani calling out. You put something under went well, but it was thought that Erik perhaps said it isn't always the best use of his time. So whether it is or is not, that was a bit unclear and might put it in the wrong box. So maybe you could clarify.
Oh yeah. Well, as he was writing it, yeah, maybe put it in the middle because it felt like it could be. It always feels like a good use of my time when I'm here, but then when I'm not, then it's because well, maybe I'm doing something else. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a good use of my time, but perhaps also relating back to the experimental side of things, and keep that in mind, which might also be a nice way to get some of the burden of the people that are contributing so much, that it's, well, experimental and you know, no outcomes are guaranteed.
What is sticking to suggestions then? like empathize on experimental framework / reduce expectation, raise expectations.
Yeah, I think perhaps that would be good for newcomers as well. But yeah, I said I said I didn't have a lot to share, but I always have a lot to share. So thanks.
That's why you're here. And I think you have a very unique role, right? Because you're always opting in and out constantly. So you have a really good understanding, I think, from both perspectives, right? Like a OG newcomer, a little bit professional lurker. Wow.
That's a nice title. I can live with that.
Oh, good. I create you a Discord role just for you, professional lurker. Wait, let's do this. I will do this later. I will actually really do this. Wait, let's.
Progress.
We defined a new role. Awesome, and thanks a lot for Erik. Is it okay for you if I add your name to your sticky?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, awesome. And thanks a lot for still and again being here, man. Deeply appreciate it. Love you. Then next one would be Ubio. Need to create a new frame. From your perspective, what went well so far from your Logon Ambassadors program?
I really don't know what to say here because what went well? Yeah, because I love giving perspective when I do have 100% knowledge of any ecosystem. But unfortunately, it's been 7 months now, and I still can't clearly point out to say I do understand this community well, the ambassadorial ecosystem. It's unfortunate that I'm saying this, but it's actually the truth. And it kind of hurt because I've tried my best, and so I just had to take a camp, and that's the incubation place, and just stay there and just contribute from that angle because that's all I could resonate with. And it's like it's so tough, right? So maybe I'm gonna start with what did not go well, and then probably I'll now give my overall assessment of what I think went well. Yeah, I feel up till now it's still a struggle for people to know how to come into the ambassadorial community. For example, if you want to onboard, you have to come into a particular work group that is dedicated to onboarding. Unfortunately, before you come in, by the time I'm already in, it means I have some level of knowledge already. Onboarding is supposed to be something done outside, not inside. And now I'm not saying inside is wrong. I'm just saying that's where I was expecting before, let's say, when I started having the idea, okay, I would like to join the ambassadorial group and all that. What I did was to search on Google, what's the SingularityNet ambassadorial group? What do they do? Sketchy ideas, sketchy information. My first instinct was not to come to a Discord group to actually get that particular information and get all of that whole onboarding. And unfortunately, by the time you're already inside the Discord group, when you now when you're now in, you just join without necessarily nobody's pointing you. Okay, so now you're in. You needed to first go to onboarding or any other place. So sometimes I really do think, I don't really know much. Is there a specific place where I can go and read all of this? And I'm not talking about on Discord. I'm talking about materials where all of this can be put into perspective, this whole ecosystem, so that I can as well know how all of this joins together. So that makes it somehow tough. And how does each group relate with other groups? What's the essence of this particular work group, and how does it interrelate with this other one? Sometimes I don't know, sometimes I guess, sometimes I'm right, most times I'm wrong. So that's just probably me just soliloquizing, but that has been what has been in my head. So I just focused basically on what I do know, which was the incubation group, because Fly reached out to me and explained in details what it was all about before I joined. And so when I did join, I understood what I was joining. Probably if this particular mechanism is being applied, maybe it will be nice. So yeah, so maybe we can extend. So I'm still talking about suggestion now. Maybe this model can be extended. People can probably have one-on-one calls. Maybe they can have, I don't know how, I don't even know how to wrap it up in my head, but maybe to something like is it a visitation call, or maybe someone just jump in. We can have visiting days. That's not the right word I'm looking for, but just open hours where people can just pop in and ask silly questions. I really think these things would be very, very nice. Like we just have an open hour, the ambassador open hour, where people that are intending to, people that are already in, people that need clarity or anything can just bump in and ask all those stupid questions. I think nothing beats that, right? Okay, so that is it. So what has gone well? I'll talk what has gone well for me would be in the light of what we're doing in the incubation group, because I've literally seen how we've worked together in the past 3 months to build something from scratch. The coherence has been awesome, and the amazing people that I've met there. These have been things that have really worked well for me. Is there any way that can be improved? I think I've already talked when I said maybe these one-on-one open calls can help, and probably more open material that are not just exclusive to either Discord or Telegram and all this, where I can just research on Google and be like, how to join the SingularityNet ambassador group, and then get a blog telling me, explaining everything, just opening the web, maybe on Medium, explaining what this is all about, or anywhere. I don't know where we can put that, but something just in the web that I can just make an inquiry, and just that already has given me some level of knowledge and points me to the right direction on where to go to get more information as well. Sorry, I'm blabbing, but I was just expressing how I felt.
No need to excuse at all. This is why we have this session for. And like mentioned before, like we rather need critics than compliments, because this is where we see where we have to improve and to build up stuff. So really, no shame on this at all, Ubio. Deeply appreciate. Is there anything else you would like to suggest as well?
No, I think this are the stuff in my head right now.
So thanks a lot for this already, man. And I think with this, we pretty much did this. Nobi, we didn't hear from you yet. Not sure if I pronounced the name correctly. Is it Nobi? NWOBI?
Generally referred to as Onyeka, I believe, but I do imagine you're pronouncing the first part correctly.
He just said in chat he's having mic issues, so he can't really talk. Anyuka, if you've got anything you could put in the chat, you could do on the Miro later, I guess, right? Everyone?
Definitely. Share the link to the Miro bot in the live chat here already, and we'll post it later on Ambassador's General as well. We'll create some additional frames where everybody can add their thoughts. And also, sorry, I took notes of the things, shared the screen. Surely I made some mistakes there. So if I missed anything, misspelled anything, or put it in the wrong category, please edit is, access is open to edit for everybody. Feel free to correct. And then, I think then we have pretty much everyone. I think that's cool. We got a bunch of good insights.
Yeah, a ton. That's great stuff. We should maybe make a half-yearly habit out of this, or at least yearly. But yeah.
Definitely. I think there's some things what we can see already a pattern is that definitely on the good side of things, I think what was really highlighted very often is that we have a quite matured infrastructure. So we're looking on contribution system, treasury system, archive. On the bad side of things, it's very clear that it's still overwhelming. It's very different to easily understand and onboard people into the program, especially getting them as well once they are on the program, getting them from contribution to decision maker. And there's definitely a lack of coordination between Esata Baswar's program and the wider SingularityNet ecosystem. So this has been really, really good. Thanks a lot already, everybody, for taking the time and sharing your thoughts. This is pure gold, and we will have to do a lot with with the stuff. What exactly? I have no idea. Maybe we can. Something we can maybe think about is setting some sort of prioritized problems or prioritized issues which we would like to highlight for next year, which are actually already emerging only through what people shared here already. Maybe opening up the process as well. Many people couldn't join the call today. So ideally, this topic, what we started here, could be something where we can collaborate across guilds and work groups. And maybe asking guilds and work groups if they could do some sort of this retrospective with their own folks and getting input there. And then we can bring it all together and maybe are able to define, oh, okay, what is very common, and also identifying some very individual topics maybe which come up within each guild or work group. But that's it. We are on 2 hours. This was a lengthy thing. I appreciate everybody's patience already for the call and for being here at General. Any thoughts, remarks, closing notes anybody would like to add?
I'll just say what I've said in the chat, that there was some really close connections in the stuff people said with the results of the recent onboarding workgroup survey. So I'm going to be sharing that next week. And what I'm seeing is a lot of research going on at the moment. And I think it's great because then what we do is evidence-based and is supportable.
I think this actually, it's hard to grasp, but it's one of the superpowers of emerging systems. Like in a pre-designed thing, usually you spend a shitload of time on setting up theories, concepts, designs, and then you try to implement it into reality. And there's a beautiful sentence in German which says, no theory survives the first contact to reality. It's very often very true. Though research often, well, let's say this theoretic thing usually very often can be done more effective in this regard or whatnot, in the regard that you are able to define KPIs, OKRs, whatnot, so really going into corporate or academic, for example, areas. what doesn't really fit to decentralized DLT-based communities, which are fully grassroots, open source freaks. So emergent design actually in this regard means you start with a great intent and you continue. And each now and then you do a stop and you look back on what actually happened. And by looking back, now you start to identify, okay, what is emerging actually? And the things which you're then able to identify usually really fit much better to the reality because this is where it comes from. And there, in this regard, it's not theory which is then put into reality. It's actually upside down. It's practice which is then formulated into theory in this regard. So in our regard, what we do is hands-on practice-based research each day, each week, each month, each year. Takes time, sometimes difficult to follow because it's not a concept what we learn in school or in business or in our first context with professional lives. It's actually going exactly against us because you can't be sure of what is coming out, right? And as a corporate, you exactly want to be sure what is coming out because this is where you put your money. In our regard, we have no idea, and this is something we can be fully sure about. We have no idea where we'll be in 2-3 years from now. And that's really a good thing. Will be difficult to measure, will be difficult to say, was it a success or wasn't it? But it will be a hell of an interesting run altogether, that's for sure. So thanks for being patient. Thanks for being crazy enough for being here with us as well. Like, this is really needed. And yeah.
Yeah, great job on hosting, Felix. Thanks a lot for that. And once again, for all contributions, of course. Without that, yeah, there would be nothing. So thanks again. That's all I can add to that.
And you played an absolute blinder, Felix, facilitating, listening, writing, managing the Miro. Heroic.
One other really important thing in decentralized system, don't build culture around people. Everybody sucks.
Yeah,
Don't
right. You
cheerlead people. Don't cheerlead individuals too much. Ego is dangerous. Let's balance it and check each other on this. But thanks a lot, and thanks for everybody once again. Then that's it for today. I think, Pete, you're recording. You have to press the stop recording button.
I was waiting for you to press that button, but sure, I'll do it.
I can't. Oh, wait, give it a second. And for everybody who watched this recording, you're awesome too. Hope to see you around sooner or later. Become a professional lurker or become full-time, hardcore committed. Your role is your decision.
I would say if they make it this far into the video, they're pretty committed. So shout out to you.